Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I'm going to be drawing some comics today. I'm working on this little short story that's a part of the Starvale universe, if you're familiar with any of those old comics I was doing for a while. So I'm just trying to basically use this year to knock out every single, thing I've started in the past. So if you're curious what that means for any other comics, it means all the comics. I just want to get everything done. I don't need to save for a house anymore. I don't need to do all the bullshit I've been doing for years. So I can finally get back to doing this stuff, which is fun. Happy New Year, everybody. So I'm going to start drawing this. I did this page today. This is here, let me bring it over into Photoshop so you can see actually what it's going to look like. So I did this page today. They don't take me super long. This probably took me a couple hours, maybe like 4 hours or something like that. I sketched it before. That's the only thing I didn't do today. And then I did the graphic panels. I did that today. I mean, whenever, like a while ago. So now I'm just kind of inking everything and then coloring and whatever. So yeah, I gotta finish the center panels here. They're like these. So what's happening in this one here is he's kind of overlooking this really old civilization that exists on this planet, and they're old statues in like this desolate city on this planet. So I tried to create like a whole culture for the people that don't exist anymore, and so that's what all these statues represent. So they're kind of like beautiful old golden statues that are super intricate and detailed in like this, completely vacant place. So they need to look like very opulent, but then a little unsettlingly lonely or whatever. Just like a lot of beauty in the middle of nothing. But yeah, I won't give everything away, I guess. But it's a short story. It's like 25 pages or something. This is page 5. So I'm going to be doing page 6 for this stream. But yeah, this is a Starvale story. Okay. Alright. I'll show you just real quick like my my thumbnails if you want to see them. So here's the thumbnail for this comic page. This thing here is just the pencil brush, I think, in Clip Studio. And I tried to work on all my sketches like real small. And then I just blow it up and go from there. You know what I might not have done with this that I need to do? Yeah, I have to do something real quick. Hold on, let me black out my screen so you can't see secrets, but I'll still be here. I'll still be here in the shadows in the corner. I just realized that I didn't do the thing I've been doing. Hold on. So, the thing that I didn't work up yet in this the right resolution. Currently, that resolution that you were just looking at is obscenely high. It's like 600 DPI. So what I need to do is render the final lines at a different resolution, because if I don't have any secrets up right now. It's more or less like when I save my files, they you know, they're mixed up with a bunch of other shit that I don't have the ability to share. So okay. So sorry about that. I had to change the resolution of this thing to 450 from 600, or else the brush in Krita looks insane. So I can't have it be at that high of a res. All right, there's nothing on the screen anymore that's secret, so here we go. I should probably move my chat down here and this up here so you can look at the picture. Okay, now I can start working. So this page, the one on the left here that's all colored, that one, like I said, didn't take too long, but that's because it's like mostly just characters close up. These pages that are super detailed take much longer than that. So let's see how much we can actually get done. Do I plan to cover my process on making a comic, from the conceptual process to the writing, thumbnails, finish, and so on the Patreon? Yeah, I can do that. I've done some of that with like writing, but I haven't done the whole process because I've never really on the Patreon actually executed a comic from start to finish. So I'd be happy to do that. I think what I would do for something along those lines is do like a breakdown of everything in a presentation sort of sense, and then open it up to the chat for Q&A, because you never know what people actually want to know and want covered. You know, it takes like I have to really get out of my own head to think like, what would I want to know if I were starting again? So I'd probably be something like that. Maybe like a patron exclusive live stream sort of thing, where I'll do like my speech in the beginning. Do you still have interest in the basketball manga you showed? I do. The only thing is I want to get every other thing done before I get into doing other shit. Stuff like doing like the Garfield comics, like that sort of thing is fun because it doesn't take a whole lot of bandwidth for me, and there's no pressure. Like I'm not really worried about the Garfield manga being complete, you know? So things like that are easy to hop in and out of and not have to worry about finishing a whole book. But when it comes to the basketball manga, that's like an actual goofy story that I would want to tell. So I'm curious how you want me to do this stream. I want to see how this goes. Do you want to see how fast I work on these things when I'm not talking, or do you want me to talk with you guys as I do this? I'm cool with either, because I'll work on this whenever, but I'm curious if people are interested in just seeing like I told you before, that page takes me like 4 hours. I won't be able to show you that unless I'm just totally dialed in full ADD OCD mode. All right. Talk. Yeah, no problem. You want a little bit of both? Well, me, when I watch people work, like I always like to see what does an actual workflow look like for them versus just being, you know, just being a person hanging out. But that's more or less just whatever. I like seeing people's work when they're being productive. I'll try my best to do both. So what I try to do is something that's super detailed like this. I try to identify all the larger shapes first, knock those in, and then go in and do the smaller details. I try not to get too lost. You want to go with like, okay, I'm doing the bigger shape first because it's the most important. So what does your weekly breakdown look like nowadays, now that you're not on crunch mode to get the house? I still have the same work week. I just don't, like during the day, I still do the same sort of thing. Like I don't care so much if I like take a short break to just like hang out with the kids. It's not like stressful. Like in the past, it's like if Kim and the boys are hanging out, I would feel like, God, I wish I could just take a little bit of time and go hang out in the day and see them and take like a half hour or something. But I'd be so busy that I just had to just go back to work as soon as possible and then get through everything. But now it's like I can be pretty lenient. Like as long as I get everything I need to get done in a day, I can stop a little early. So I do that. But it's mostly just not having to work at night. Like only if I want to do something, you know? My goal with this comic in particular was to just do something that was really like a ridiculous showcase of like what I've learned. That was mostly what I wanted to do. Because I have so many beautiful old comics and things that I wanted to be like a part of that. I want to do something that's a little over the top. Like not just do comics as fast as possible because, you know, I'm trying to make money or something. Just do something that I feel like I'm able to take my time with and put out, and like I'll sell this comic. Like it's a really short story, but I'll sell it for like, I don't know, a couple bucks online, the PDF. and I'll just call it. Or maybe I'll do like a special print release or something. Like a one-off thing. But this is like a fairy tale myth type situation in this comic. That's part of the Starvale universe. I actually just spent last night going over the original full Starvale script when I was gonna do the whole book. And then I didn't feel like I could do it. Now I feel like I could do it pretty quickly. But I went and read through it and it wasn't terrible. I was pretty surprised. I just feel like it's been so long since I've looked at it. Usually all that stuff from years ago just reads horribly. Especially compared to like everything since doing the Steve books. Learned a bunch doing that. Do I ever plan on selling one-off books in the future? Manga authors do one-shots often. Yeah. Yeah, I actually had an idea for something like that. I mean, I don't know if I'll do it. I have so many other things that I have to get done before I even consider something like that. Comic-wise. Like I have like 15 other projects I need to do. So this universe, this takes place, this is your own universe? Yeah, I mean, the Starvale comic is all mine. That was like one of the first things I worked on for myself back in the day. trying not to be too precious about the details. I want to strike a balance between things looking pretty done, but also keep in mind that, you know, it doesn't need to look insane. Like, it doesn't need to look like I touched every single inch of it. You might think I'm still going a little overboard, but it's better than what my mind wants me to do. For world building or storytelling in general, what are some basic questions you think are important to solve as soon as possible when constructing a narrative? I mean, character motivations are super important. It's like, I mean, it's really like the why. Like, why is all, like, why are you doing it in the first place? Like, what's the point of all this? Like, world building's fine. You know, that's easy. It's easy to do world building. At least it is for me. It's like, but the most important stuff, the thing that actually matters in a comic, is how the reader is going to relate to what you're doing. So what are your characters' motivations? What are their goals? What are all the things that are going to kind of get in their way? I mean, it's mostly just kind of figuring out some basic thrust of the story and then throwing things in the way of your characters. And you know, that can be like dramatic, really serious stuff, or it can be silly things, you know, like in Steve Lichman, some of those like arcs are just in like dialogue, so they don't always have to be like big momentous action scenes or something. But if you get like, if you get hung up on just pretty artwork, it's kind of pointless. You want to make sure that your story is relatable. That's why it helps to be really honest with what you're doing and who you are, and is this story something that you can really relate to and understand and give some insight. So like when people are reading it, there's some depth to it and it feels real. I was actually just talking to my wife, who's in the chat, Kim. We were talking about this today because I've been reading this book. And there's this thing that happens where sometimes you'll read like fiction and they'll be talking about conflict or something like that, but you can tell just by like reading the book that whoever wrote it has never experienced anything like that. So it feels very video gamey, or just like the point of reference for like violence and this, like, it just doesn't work. Like, it just feels silly. And stuff like that is kind of what I'm talking about. It's like, do stuff you understand. Like, it's not like you can't do fantasy things, but they need to relate in some way to something you actually understand well enough. Am I reading Jack Reacher? No, I was reading this book, Between Two Fires, which I've seen people recommend a bunch, but I'm waiting for it to kind of pick up. At the moment, it just kind of feels like I'm reading somebody's video game playthrough. You went to college to become a comic artist, but found out about the BS pay and the terrible deals, so I want to pivot to illustration and maybe concepts. I still want to do comics. Thoughts, advice? I mean, for me, I do all those things you're talking about. I do concepts, I do things for video games and movies and TV, all that sort of thing. Like that's what I do to make all my money. And then, you know, if you can survive and do well enough in that field, then you can carve out a little bit of time to do comics, which is what I'm doing now, you know? It's not easy. But I never wanted to work for other people doing comics. I've only wanted to do my own comics, really. I've done comic work for other people. Like I've did the Destiny comic. I've done one other one for like an advertising agency. And then I worked for like Marvel and whoever else just on like covers and things like that, but never interiors. There's decent money in it if you're selling originals, but I don't know how good that is. I have never done that side of it. All I know is that for me, working in entertainment and then doing comics on the side is like the only way to really get that balance in, because otherwise, I don't know, I feel like you'd have to always be working for people in comics to make enough money to be able to then do your own comics on the side. Like I don't know, that it just feels like you'd never get enough money. Have I worked as a creative director? Never worked as a creative director. I've been an art director for like a split second. I've mostly just been a freelancer my whole life, so I'm in and out of projects like all the time. Like I've, you know, freelanced for 17 years now. That's just been my whole world. Yeah, lots of teachers will discourage digital for the sake of selling traditional, but the thing is that it depends how fast you are. I'm much faster digitally, so I can output a lot. I mean, the other thing you can do is just do a hybrid of the two, where you sketch everything out, get all the details and things ironed out before printing it, and then just inking it traditionally, which is what a lot of professionals do. And that works. Then you get the benefit of both. Has it been 17 years since Green Sun Zenith? I don't think so. I think that was in like 2009? Maybe? I don't know. Do you prefer traditional or digital art? If you could make the same amount of money doing either one, would you have a preference? I would do more watercolor, but I still probably would do mostly digital, just because I feel like if I'm just trying to get things done, then I prefer to just knock things out digitally. Because I think, like, especially considering projects, like I'm more oriented to, like, I just want to get them done quickly. Like, I'm trying to strike a balance between having them look good and getting them done fast. Like, I'm really trying to get through this quickly. The main thing in this story is I have, like, at least, I don't know, maybe 8 pages of, like, establishing shots of different environments to kind of drive home the opulence of this place and the, like, Baroque architecture and the little details and things that go into the mythology of the place. So I'm trying to, like, establish all that and get that grandiose look across. And then the comic kind of, it doesn't change, but the environment that the characters are in is going to change and get a bit simpler, which is going to be a massive relief. I can't remember what page that's at, but hopefully soon. It's also so crazy to try and remember what I was doing with these little doodles. Like, I just had to look at this and I was like, oh right, that's an archway that they're gonna walk through, so I gotta make sure I draw that perspective. Is this Mobius inspired? I mean, maybe just in, like, a roundabout way, but not directly. Starvale in general is mostly, like, inspired by a lot of the old anime I used to watch when I was a kid. And what I wanted Starvale to feel like, I wanted it to feel like a comic that you found in your attic or something, like just something that always existed. I didn't want it to feel new. I wanted it to feel like you couldn't put your finger on when somebody made this. That was, like, the feeling I wanted to get across with the color scheme and then the textures and everything. That was always my goal. Do I have time to come up with new stuff? New comics and things? I could, but I want to finish what I already started. I'm doing this one first because I literally have it, like, completely sketched out and ready to just be inked and colored. So it'd be dumb not to just finish this one. It's right there. Is there any particular anime I keep coming back to? I mean, it's been blowing up everywhere in the past couple years, but Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust aesthetically is the one that I probably look at the most. Like a lot of that kind of Madhouse era anime I really enjoy. I'll watch the Fatal Fury anime. Not because it's necessarily like incredible, but it's just what I grew up with when I was a kid. I loved that. And then I'll watch like Bubblegum Crisis, the old one. Just finished watching the season 1 of Chainsaw Man. That's why I did that artwork of Chainsaw Man. I just thought it was really good. And then I started thinking, like, my wife and I, we watched it, and then we were like, well, let's maybe try something else. And then we put something else on, and I was like, oh. I always forget why I haven't watched anime. Like, oh shit. Like, Chainsaw Man has a little bit of that typical, like, I don't even know how to describe it, just like the cringy shit. But in general, it works because it's so over the top that I feel like it just feels like a goofy show in general. And I really like how much it doesn't care. And then I like some other ones, like for like the Dragon Ball Z-ness of like the episodic, you know, each episode leading to the next flow, Saturday morning cartoon vibe. My Hero is pretty good for that. I feel like they hit that pretty well. And I think I talked about this last time, but the thing I admire the most about that show is they accomplish a lot of what I think the MCU was trying to accomplish, where they do the balance of like funny but also serious. Where MCU, they always undercut everything with a joke, which is just tiresome and stupid to me. But like, I like that My Hero lets their serious moments breathe and doesn't undercut everything with a joke. I think anime does that pretty well. The thing that Marvel was like trying to do. If that makes sense. I watched all of Attack on Titan. I honestly can't really remember. Or I didn't watch all of it. I watched up until whatever was released like a year ago. And I couldn't tell you what I watched. I do not remember what happens in that show. I went through an anime phase when we had our second kid, and I would just be up waiting for our kid to fall asleep, and my wife would be sleeping in bed, and I'd be like holding our kid in my lap, and just while he's sleeping, and I would just leave on some show or something. And that's how I watched like a couple series. Just in the middle of the night, not sleeping ever. actually never watched Evangelion before my first son was born, and that was the first time I watched that show. And my main takeaway was, oh shit, there's a lot of pedophile stuff in this. No, it was just very like puberty, awkward oriented content, which I was like, alright, I get it. Having a dick is tough. That should be what the show is called. I also did the watch order that everybody said to do. I thought it was good. I mean, like, the animation and everything is great. The style, you know, that show is just non-stop style. Like, it's so good. It's so confident. I love that part of it for sure. But I felt like it was a bit too heavy-handed. Like, you had to watch it at a certain age, I feel like, and I think I watched it too late. If I were a kid and I watched that, I'd be like, this is deep as shit. But as an adult watching it, I was just kind of like, alright, yeah, I get it. It's like when some of it has the vibe of like a 13-year-old watching like a YouTube documentary for the first time and being like, do you know that there's no gold backing the dollar? There's like some of that energy to it, which is fine, but I definitely needed to see it when I was younger. The edginess is lost on me. Oh, Record of Lotus War was like one of my favorites. That anime, I grew up watching that. That was fucking amazing. I have one other. Oh, my playlist ended. It's like, hey, do you want to listen to TikTok songs? No, I don't. Sorry, my playlist just decided it was done. Let's go to the next one. Let's just listen to old Crystal Castles. That's fun. How vividly do I see the images in my head before starting? Not super vivid, but I do see them. I have a pretty good idea of my compositions, at least. What I'm gonna do for the image. The other thing that I got into when my first kid was born was Berserk. I read through a good chunk of Berserk, and I love that. That was so good. Then I did a bunch of like Berserk art around that time. What I like about a lot of that stuff, a lot of those books, is you can feel book to book kind of vibe going. Like I think it's for people who like make stuff, it can feel a little daunting to think like, God, how much of this is planned? Like how much do they actually know before they, you know, start writing this? Like what do they actually understand about their own story? And I think Berserk does a really good job of just kind of showing that like you can just evolve things as they go. Like I know that a huge chunk of that wasn't planned. Like that's like there's a really good thing from I want to say it's in Stephen King's writing book, that if you're not surprised by what's going to happen in your story, then people won't be. So it's like if you know every single thing that's going to happen in your comic or whatever before you even start, then other people are just going to see it coming a mile away. So you kind of have to let yourself be surprised. So those manga artists who have to put out a, you know, new chapter every however quick, I don't remember the time. It's like I think that there's a lot of benefit in that because they just have to make stuff. So like the story just will naturally evolve as they go, and they can't be too precious with it. And I think that leads to things naturally feeling like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool like twist, surprise, whatever. Because they just have that opportunity. They're not making a whole book all at once. Yeah, if you've never read Berserk, you should check it out. It's great. But I do think like one of the best lessons of manga is to just like make stuff. Just make things and figure it out as you go. Don't be like obviously it needs to start with like a spark. You need to want to make whatever you're making. It needs to be some seed of an idea, but like you don't need to be precious. Like just be confident, go in and make what you're gonna make. Let it evolve, let it grow. Have I ever read Vagabond? I never read through the whole thing, but I have a few of the books. This panel's so ridiculous. God damn it. Thanks for hanging out with me while I endlessly draw this panel. Why do I do this to myself? Why don't I just do two characters fighting? God damn it. I told myself with these sort of projects, it's like I should only be doing things that, like, not like nobody else could do this, but that I feel like only I could do. Like only I would do something that's so detail oriented and stupid, but it would be uniquely mine because nobody's gonna want to spend this much time doing Baroque ornate things. It's like, so fill your pages up with stuff that's very much you. That was the idea. It's like nobody would ever do this, so it's gonna work. It's like, sure, but God, if I were doing my basketball manga, just drawing fucking dudes in shorts. Holy shit. How many pages of that could I do in a day? Yeah, just drawing hot dudes in basketball fucking outfits, dunking. Whew. Easy. There's our characters walking up these steps or path or whatever it is. Am I playing any games these days? Nothing since I I mean, if you were on the last stream, I talked about I beat Spider-Man 2 finally. That's it, really. I beat that. I beat Super Mario RPG. Yeah, nothing really. Sorry, you gotta watch me draw the most boring shit ever, by the way. But I appreciate the company. Well, I appreciate that this is not boring. I'm glad. I gotta do it, so even if it was boring, I just have to get it done. Gotta do all this stuff. It's a little different in style to the initial pages that I did, but this way of inking for me is so much faster that I just don't care. I can't care. Otherwise, I'll be sitting on this mountain of open loops and projects I never finished for 1,000 years. Stuff just needs to get done. That's all. That was like one thing that I learned doing the Steve Lichman comics. It was like we were starting on our second book, and when we started on the second book, I just told Dan, who's my writing partner on the whole thing, and we do all that whole book together. He helps with the color fills and things like that. But like, I told him when we started that, I was like, I need to change the style. I was like, it's taking too long to do these pages, and I just need it to be faster. I was like, so I'm gonna switch it up. And then there was some like hesitation about it, because I was like, what if people care? What if people are like noticing that it's not the same thing, or there's some inconsistency? And I'm sure that was a thing, but for the most part, nobody cared, and it was fine. And it, more importantly, saved my sanity. And, people can look past that stuff if the actual story is good, or entertaining at least. Like one of the things that I think is funny that comes up when you talk about comics is people talk about like, you're going to be so much better by the time you do the last page. Like, how do you resist going back and, restarting their early stuff? And again, I would point to manga artists. Like, look at how, honestly, this isn't really an example that relates to that, but look at fucking One Punch Man. Look at how that comic looks. Like, clearly it's more about the story. But, you know, you can get away with a lot. But anyway, any manga that's been going on long enough, you can go back and check out how it used to look, like 10 years ago, and the evolution in drawing is usually pretty apparent. And you can go like, oh, right. You can just get better and keep going and not worry about consistency. And I think when you're in the middle of doing a comic, that's the last thing on your mind. Because comics are so fucking hard, especially if you're doing like a huge book. The last thing you're ever gonna do is go back to the beginning and think that you have to fix the artwork. What did you... Oh, can we expect some Jack Threat stuff? I would love to. I have a bunch of Jack Threat stories that I've written. I don't know how I do those, but... Yeah, I've written a bunch of Jack Threat stuff. There was like a whole time period where I just wrote pulp comics for fun that I would never planned on actually making. And they're all Jack Threat stuff. Like, Jack Threat's not a parody of Jack Reacher or any of those, like, Manly Man dudes. It's just my earnest version of one of those dudes. That just happens to be over the top. But I never make fun of that stuff. What did you find helpful to get faster? Were there any specific changes that help with that? Just constantly working, constantly drawing and trying to improve and always thinking about improving and thinking about how to get better, faster, all that sort of thing. I worked on a lot of like fan art things to get better because when you're doing fan art, you don't have to think about design. You can just think about executing something that already exists and use that subject matter as the framework for improving at your compositions and whatnot. So that was always helpful to me. What's this comic I'm working on called? What did I call it? It has a few different names right now. One of them is Veil. You know, like Star Veil kind of thing, but the other one I had was Ashes. The other one was something else. I just gave it a bunch of like working titles while I was saving files. I don't know what I'm ultimately gonna call it. Everything with Starville always has like a vague name. So it'll probably be something like that. But I don't know what it'll be. Yeah, the other one was cat and boy. That's what I called this one for a while. I mean, you said you changed something about how you were doing a previous comic to help with speed and in your sanity. Well, that was more or less just like, instead of going for what I meant by that, at least, was instead of aiming for consistency, just aim on improvement. Like, don't try to match the earlier pages of the comic because you want it to look, you know, bad on purpose. Let yourself evolve as an artist and have the issues get better and better looking. Well, it's a little different when you're doing comedy stuff because, like, take South Park for instance. Like, a lot of the joke in South Park is the look. It's like that's a big part of it. It's like it's crude and simple, but you get away with a lot when you do that. And the more like genuine and earnest the style is, and you know, like it looks like it's trying to be cool, the less funny it is. It's sort of like how a stand-up comedian who's like in really good shape has a much harder time being funny. And I don't mean like they can't be funny. I mean that it's an uphill battle for them, like to get to the same level as somebody who isn't like that. And that same thing applies with style in, you know, like a comedy comic. Like, it can actually look too nice. The other thing that I've learned making stuff, and honestly just like getting older, it's just that you have to make stuff. It's like you just have to make things and not worry about it. Don't try to be incredible You know, like, don't think in your head like, I'm not going to work on something unless it's incredible and amazing and it's just right. It's perfect. It's like, do your best with what you know now, and obviously try your hardest, but then put it out. Then actually just do it. You'll figure out everything that's wrong with it if you're serious about it and you analyze the work, and you improve by just doing and doing and doing. It doesn't mean that you improve in a vacuum. It's like you improve by also seeking out information because you're genuinely interested in it, because you did spend a bunch of time on a book or whatever, and you want the next one to be better, or you want the one you're working on to be better. So you'll seek out resources and things that could help you. But if you're so precious that you never make anything, then you learn way less. It's like you just learn so much by doing things. So all your story ideas, everything that you have in mind that you'd like to do, just do them and then come up with new stories as you go. I think it's, like sometimes when you're working on something and you're like, oh, this is going to be good. But sometimes you don't know. Like, this is a dumb example maybe, but when we were doing Steve, we would just do like these comics for us, like these one-off issues that we thought were funny, and then they would take on their own life online, and people would take other meaning from it and be like, well, that's actually deep or whatever, and I'd be like, no, it's not, it's just a stupid joke. But like, your things that are going to click the most with people, you might not even think that much of them. They might just be like a comic that you put out that you were just kind of like, well, I got it done and that's enough, so I feel good. I did finish the thing I said I was going to finish. But then all of a sudden it becomes something and you're like, oh shit. I never thought that would be the one that would take off. And I think that sort of thing happens a lot. Like, you're in control of a decent amount, but certainly not everything. So just don't be too precious, 'cause you never know. What's the name of this series? It's called Goosebumps 2049. It's all Goosebumps stories taking place on planets all around the chaotic universe of Goosebumps. It's the sci-fi. It's the sci-fi offshoot of Goosebumps. No, it's not. I don't know what it's called. Is there a Goosebumps story you legit found scary as a kid? Say cheese and die. No, no, I don't know. No, I don't think so. I watched like horror movies when I was little, so Goosebumps was always kind of like Not like I was too cool for them, but I collected them like kids who don't know how to play Pokemon collect Pokemon cards. You know what I mean? Just, I like the pictures. Holy shit. Am I really only this far through this fucking panel? Ah. I knew this one was gonna be crazy. At least the other ones aren't as brutal. How did you learn that Baroque stuff? I just had an interest in it, and when I was a kid, my dad, he was an antiques dealer, so we had ornate like fixtures and things that he would sell. So I kind of just grew up looking at that, and I think it just became a part of my like visual library, so to speak. I just kind of know it because I've seen it so many times in my life, and I always gravitated towards detail, and Baroque architecture was always appealing to me. So it's just one of those things that's I'm naturally inclined to like. So it's not like I went out of my way to learn this stuff. I mean, you can see from me just doing this that I'm not really doing it, you know? Like a lot of this is just implied. It's just lots of shadow that feels like detail. If I were actually drawing everything in here, that would be insane. I'm not doing that. I'm just implying a lot of stuff. I'm trying to do what your eye does when it's overwhelmed by a bunch of detail. It just starts to make big shapes out of it and imply things through light and shadow, because you don't focus on every individual detail when you look at something. Am I planning to get more handcrafted doors for the new house? No, we need a carpenter to come and install the one that we already have, though. They gotta plug it into a wall as just like an art piece. So we'll see how that goes. It doesn't look too crazy. I feel like I'm doing a decent job not making it look overwhelming. A door to nowhere then? Yeah, pretty much. I forgot to show you all. I started that Batman comic. I probably won't finish it until this is done, but I don't know if you remember that. I was working on a Batman comic for fun. I mentioned it in the stream that what the story was, but I'll pop it up on the screen here so that you can see the initial start that I had to it. Hopefully Krita doesn't die. It's gonna take a second. It's a pretty big file. But anyway, the gist of it was that instead of doing like a straight up Batman comic, and I don't know, this could have already been done before a million times, I don't really care, but it's basically just Bruce Wayne is trying his best to set the city right as a regular dude, but he turns into a big old monster bat and kills bad guys, and he hates that. He hates that part of him. So this comic was basically just the introduction of him changing into a big old monster bat. Alright, this is the second page. This was the first page. This is just a sketch. So it's gonna be him, like, you know, falling apart, about to transform. Yeah, it's just basically Jekyll and Hyde. And then like a big old monster mouth here in this panel. And he's basically begging that monster not to come out. But I wanted to do like a giant, big, gruesome, like Halloween bat. I think it'll be fun. It's only like 3 pages, so it's pretty easy. But anyway, I just wanted to share it. What happened to his parents? Just diabetes in mine. And bats love sugar. At least I think they do. I don't know. I have to play something else. The stream was finally telling me that I had to not play that music. So let's do that. No, I've never read Dream of a Bat. I haven't read a ton of comics, honestly. Like Batman comics. I used to collect them, but I don't know like a lot of the big stories. When I was a kid, I collected everything just for the art. No, I don't have anything planned for what happened to Bruce's parents and mine. It's just that he had like the idea is essentially that he just had like a schizophrenic break, which is, you know, not that far off from regular Batman, except in mine it's just an actual monster. Because I like the idea, somebody had mentioned it on Twitter, I think. They were like, wouldn't it be, they were like, I think they said I always like Cryptid Batman. And I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. Like, that seems like that seems like what Batman would be, you know? Like, I think of the Mothman, I think of like, you know, Bigfoot and whatever, just like stuff that's an urban legend but is a monster. Like, what if it actually was a monster? Like, that just feels better to me. And I like the idea that Bruce knows that violence isn't the answer, but he can't help it. Because that, you know, like, that's always been the funniest thing about Batman to me, is that, like, he's wondering, like, how come no matter how many times I punch them, crime doesn't stop? I don't understand. It's like the violence never solves anything. I don't get it. And I'm like, you'd be way smarter than that if you were Batman. I can't punch these guys into stopping their wicked ways. There has to be a better way. Maybe I should kill them. My personal favorite type of Batman comic are the ones where he just fights the mob, like just like regular crime, not the supervillains. I just like the juxtaposition of those two elements, you know, like this high fantasy weirdo performative dude, and then like regular guys that are bad. I'm curious, when did you decide this is my life now and embrace your love of Baroque? Only in a few particular situations. This unfortunately is one of them. Look, I'm a victim to this, okay? For the love of God, I need to finish one panel. Holy shit. I mean, to be fair to myself, this is like a giant inked piece here. And I have been working on it for, unfortunately, an hour and 40 minutes at this point. Shit. Isn't suffering part of the fun? I guess. Well, if you want to make something that people are going to want to look at, you got to spend time on it, I guess. So if anybody likes this type of art, hopefully they hang out and check out the rest of this comic. I mean, the next few streams are probably going to be devoted to this comic because I have a few more. I have a lot more pages to go. We'll see. I mean, as soon as it goes past this and it's not so crazy, I'll have a much better idea of how long it's actually going to take. Right now, I'm judging it off of this one page. But again, like I said, that page on the left that you're looking at, the colored one, that one took 4 hours. So hopefully they go more in that direction, or they just start speeding up. Can only hope. Because these types of pages are demoralizing. I'm not having a bad time. I'm just trying to speed this along. You're never going to be able to escape just doing hard work if you want to do something cool. It's just the way it is. It's more tedious than anything. It'll look cool with color though. All the textures and everything. Let's look. Okay. All right, I'm probably gonna hop off of here in like 10 minutes. I gotta wake up kind of early tomorrow. We're refinancing our house to get a better rate. Very cool shit. So I gotta go and sign some papers. I have a bunch of stuff to post up on Patreon, so if anybody's interested in checking that out, the link is in the description. That's where I'm going to be sharing the majority of my comic work and everything else going forward that's personal. And anything I can fit in between, like tutorials or walkthroughs on how I do process stuff for comics, all that'll be up there. But this is just the beginning of a whole long road this year of finishing all the open loops. That's what this year is. It's finishing old comics, ideas, all that stuff. So I'll be sharing like scripts and things, and then if I do any Garfield stuff, that'll go up there too. I have a Garfield script ready to go. I just need to make significant progress on one of these things first. I also have to just never post my Garfield stuff on any of my main accounts. It'll all have to go on unacceptable manga from now on. I don't want to deal with the stuff I dealt with last time. clients trying to get rid of me. But I still want to make jokes. So what do you do? It's a double-edged sword. Oh my God, really? Yeah, I've had clients ask me to remove Garfield from my social media accounts. And I have to go, you mean remove the lifeblood of what I do? Are you mad? But I had to save up for a house. So I had to make some concessions. Also, my literary agent was like, I sent him some of the comics. And I was like, can you believe this? They're telling me to remove this. And I said, what do you think? Do you think I should remove this? And he was like, oh. It's probably not the best idea to leave those up, just in case you want to sell stuff. I was like, oh, okay. I get what you're saying. Even though the meme is worth $1 million. Well, the thing that was funny is they were like trying to say that like the thing that all those people were worried about with that stuff was like Twitter and whatever, and they think like trans people or whoever is going to be up in arms over this, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's my Garfield audience. Like, it was just so funny to me, like how they thought like I'm going to offend like a group of people with this thing. I'm like, what? I'm like, you mean all the people that love that stuff? Like, what are you talking about? It was very silly to me. The angle I easily could have played with that whole thing was the like, you know, feel free to cancel me over this and then watch me spin it into, or not cancel me, but, you know, get rid of me. I was like, watch me spin it into they fired me because of my sexual preference. And just go, I sank your battleship. You heard from an artist, Anthony Johnson. To find your strong suit for portfolio was through trying everything from concept illustrations, 3D animation. What do you think? Yeah, if you don't know what you want to do, then you should try everything. But if you're confident and you know what you want to do, then do that thing. Like if you get really excited to do one kind of thing and you love it more than anything in the world, do that thing. Don't become something else because you think it's not good enough. That would be my only stipulation with that. Because I was told real early on, like, oh, you're not going to be, like, you can't make a living doing portraits. Everybody does portraits. And then that's how I became, like, even a remote name in the industry was by doing portraits. But that's just because I was so stubborn, I just didn't listen to anybody. I was just like, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do anyway, because that's what makes me happy. So there's no rules to anything, but it's always good to keep your options open and try a bunch of different things, for sure. With that in mind, I've done like every type of job, so I've found ways to love things that, you know, I never thought I would do, or never thought I would find interest in, really. Okay, that's about all I did with the 2 hours, essentially, we've been on here. Brutal. Oh, goodness. Fuck. This was the other page I did today, which went so fast. I mean, whatever. A page and a quarter or a third. Almost a third. It's not terrible. It's not terrible progress. All right. Thank you everybody for hanging out on here. Really appreciate all the questions and comments and all that. It's great. Thanks for watching me, you know, go through this one. I'm not going to copy and paste the nights. What do you think this is? What do you think this is? You do everything. You gotta do everything. It's gotta be by hand. Alright. Yeah. Love to you all. Join the Patreon if you like to see more stuff and hang out every Thursday with me. I do these every week, so you can subscribe to the channel and I will post up when the next one is, and you can wait there, and I will keep doing comics. All right, everybody, have a good night, a good day, and I'll see you then. We did it.